General Phil Breedlove, great to have you with us, Cipher Brief expert and former top NATO commander in Europe, and as I just learned, at one point anyway, frequent visitor to Greenland. I can't say, General, that I thought for all the forecasting we in our expert network do, and we're looking at the year ahead, I didn't think one of our first conversations would be about Greenland, but so be it, here we are. I wonder if you could just start as a baseline, and this may merit a long answer, but just briefly for our audience, I'm not sure everybody knows why it matters at all or might matter from a national security perspective. What do we need to know on that front?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me back.
Sure.
I really enjoyed the Cipher Brief, and I follow it on several subjects quite religiously. So it's sort of like when you're talking to a real estate person these days. What is the first thing that come out of their mouth? Location, location, location. And so much like Turkey in the Eastern Med, Greenland in the Northern Atlantic is the prime land when it comes to location, location, location. This has to do with several military factors, and then we'll talk about the other things. The first is this growing thing we call the Northern or Northwest Passage, whereby whether you believe in climate change or not, the ice is receding in the north. Mm-hmm. And as the ice recedes in the north, the passage opens up longer and longer every year, whereby commercial as well as military craft can go through there. Now, I've heard these two numbers, and it really depends on the type of ship, whatever. But from the ports of Europe to Asia is 14 days on that northern passage, way faster than going through the Mediterranean and around through the canal. And secondarily, from most northern, northeastern U.S. ports, it's about a 20-day transit. So when you save time like that, it is money. It means you can turn your capital ships around faster. Right. This is a big commercial deal. And that's why we see China so interested in buying land in the Arctic Circle. They want to be on the Arctic Council. They want to be able to dictate terms to everyone else in the Arctic about how it will be used. Of course, Russia is looking to Greenland for a much different set of issues, primarily military control, extracting tax money, duty for the use of the Northern Passage, etc. Many in the world have never heard of what we call the GUIK, G-U-I-K gap, or G-I-U-K gap, sorry, GUIK gap. And that is essentially that body of water to the east of Greenland, Greenland, Iceland, UK gap, into the northern waters on the north side of Russia. And this is where all of their strategic navy is, all of their boomers, all of their big capital ships. All of this passes in and out of the GUIK gap as it's going into the Atlantic Ocean. So Russia is extremely keen to be able to use that gap to their advantage, and certainly not have somebody like America sitting on top of that. And then the last thing, although there are many, one more just quick thing.
Sure.
Just think about Russia and the United States. In between it in the north is Greenland. So for whatever missile defense shield we might need in the future, this is prime territory for things like that.
And can you talk a little bit, just picking up on your last point, General, about what the United States has now and has had, as I understand it, for a long time in terms of assets to, whether it's in the service of missile defense or actual missiles of our own, what American assets currently sit on the island of Greenland?
So our one base, we used to call it Thule. I will murder this name. It is an Inuit name, an indigenous name. Pitifuk now is the name of that base, I believe is the pronunciation. And so this is a big modern base. We've invested a lot of money in it in the past. We don't have a lot of forces on it, but we maintain hangar facilities. We maintain runway facilities. We maintain taxiways, all of the things to give us access to that base. And it's actually bigger than the United States. There have been times when we've had NATO missions on that base, and we're doing air defense and definition and describing the context of the northern airspaces from that base, radars, et cetera, et cetera. And so this base is strategically very important to the United States. Derivatively, it is strategically important to NATO.
Right. And as I understand it, it serves, among other things, as a kind of early warning system if we need one for...
Part of our radar system and all of the things that does sensing, not only air, but missile sensing in the north.
Mm-hmm. So I wonder then in this same context, General, I'm just going to read you what President-elect Trump said about this that kind of got the ball rolling in terms of all the public conversation now about Greenland. He said, quote, "For purposes of national security and freedom throughout the world, the United States of America feels that the ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity." So you've just made clear why presence there is important. What difference, if any, would, to use his words, ownership and control, i.e., I guess, sovereignty over Greenland make?
So I really don't like to do politics, so I'll try to cast this answer in a non-political way.
Appreciate it. We don't either.
I think this is, it is important that Greenland, which has been an integral part of the West, and the Danes and others who have influence there, et cetera, this has been an integral part of the West. It is also clear that China has been pushing very hard to get land so that they get somewhere in the Arctic Circle so that they can become an Arctic nation and sit on the Arctic Council. And so guaranteeing a Western-leaning Greenland is extremely important. I don't believe that that has to be through sovereign ownership. But the fact of the matter is we need to have the ability to work with the people of Greenland in a way that assures that they will remain on side, if you want to use a soccer term.
Right.
And the problem here is like so many other places in the world. China and Russia will throw money at this problem. And when you have a nation like Greenland, they need money for investment. So the United States has more than once tried to buy Greenland. At the end of World War II, we offered $100 million for Greenland. And so this is not the first time that there has been these conversations. I would have preferred that we would be having these kind of conversations with the people of Greenland and Denmark in a more reserved way out of the public eye, but it's in the public eye now.
And just to you've mentioned Denmark also, and I think folks understand, we have a pretty sophisticated audience, that Greenland was once a colony of Denmark, right? It is now a part of Denmark, and Denmark, of course, is a NATO ally. So in your, just to leverage a little bit, your time there, I assume you met with local officials and so forth, and of course you were NATO Supreme Allied Commander. As I understand it, U.S. relations with officialdom in Greenland, people of Greenland and Denmark have been quite good, right, over time.
They have. And that's why it's a little hard to see that we're having this sort of rough public conversation with people who are friends. And I believe that we can do this and maybe accomplish what we need to do via several options in a quiet conversation with the people of Greenland and Denmark. And yes, so my association here began when I was the 3rd Air Force commander in Europe. And then when I was the U.S. Air Force's commander in Europe. And we had airplanes and air defense detachments and all these things that would rotate in and out of then Thule Air Base. And so we have been working with this country and these people for a long time. They are wonderful people, hospitable people, and they've always been very welcoming of how we help to maintain Pitufik Air Base.
I think you nailed it that time. Last question then, General, is given that, to use your phrase, this isn't now a quiet conversation. I mean, it was raised again yesterday. The President-elect said, not ruling out use of military to take Greenland if necessary. And of course, officials in Greenland and Denmark have said, not going to happen. So what now? Where are we now? Is a quiet conversation still possible, I guess?
I think it needs to become a quiet conversation. And yes, if we all decided to do that, we could do that. And the idea that one NATO country would impose its will on another NATO country is quite interesting.
Yeah.
So I think that we have rational people who can sit down and work this out as we move forward. It is incredibly important that we do not allow Russian and Chinese influence to grow in this great country, on this island. And it is important that we continue to have a relationship with an ally, no matter how the conversation plays out.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredibly important.
That's a great note to end on. General Philip Breedlove, thank you so much for making the time and helping us not only with all these interesting names, but more important, the understanding that we really appreciate. Thanks again.
Thank you.